Hello, and thank you for joining us on the next video in our rapid training video series, Updating Journey Worker Counts. Before we begin, this video does contain audio, so please turn on your speakers or put your headset on now. Who is a journey worker? A journey worker is a worker who is considered to have mastered the skills and knowledge necessary for an occupation. This can be through a formal apprenticeship or through practical on-the-job experience and formal training. There is a journey worker ratio that all apprenticeship programs need to abide by. This is just to ensure that there are enough mentors to properly train the apprentices. If you have 1 to 4 journey workers, you can have 1 apprentice. 5 to 9, you can have 2 apprentices. 10 to 14, you can have 3 apprentices, and each additional apprentice would require an additional 5 journey workers. If you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out to your apprenticeship and training representative, otherwise known as an ATR, if you need any assistance. Individual sponsors. If you are an individual sponsor, your program is able to be updated in Rapids. This can be done from the occupation information page in Rapids, and I'm going to demonstrate that for you now. This should be what your homepage looks like. This is our ATO training page. So up at the top here, we are going to go and click on the tab that says Occupation Information. And then we're going to look for the occupation that we want to update. We are looking to change the journey worker count on the CNC operator occupation. It is the first one in the line here. In order to do that, we're going to come right across here under the column with the actions title. If we hover our pointer here near the icon that looks like a piece of paper with a pencil on it, you'll see something comes up there that says edit. That just confirms we have the right icon. We'll click that. And now we can update the occupation information. We see that everything looks to be correct here, except for the number of journey workers. We no longer have 22 journey workers. We actually have 20 journey workers. So we update that, come down to the lower right-hand corner of the screen where it says Save Occupation, and we'll click that. And the screen is updating, and now we're back to the occupation information screen, and we come to the CNC operator, and we can see where it says journey worker count, it now says 20. So now we have gone ahead and updated the journey worker count for a single sponsor. And now we're going to talk about updating journey worker counts for a group sponsor program. So now we are going to talk about group sponsor programs and how they update their journey worker counts. So please note that journey worker counts for group sponsor programs are now viewed by occupation program totals, not by individual employers. So to obtain this number, you will need to add all of the employer agreement journey worker counts for each occupation and add them together to get your cumulative number. This is the number that should be added to Rapids as the journey worker count for that particular occupation. And I will show you how to do that in Rapids in just a moment here. Group sponsor programs still need to have an Appendix E employer agreement on file for each employer. It is needed to update the journey worker counts, and it is required to have one on file for every employer, and it still needs to be uploaded to Rapids once you've received a completed agreement. On a side note, I do highly recommend that when you are naming your employer agreements, that you include the employer or an abbreviation, the occupation name or an abbreviation, and the year in the naming convention of that document. You will find this very beneficial because as your program grows and you add more employers, and some of those employers start putting apprentices in multiple occupations, You will see this will make it very easy for you at a glance to look at the program documents for that employer and see how many agreements you have on file, what occupations they go with, and if the program agreement that you have on file is relatively recent or if it's a few years old. And you'll see this when we go into Rapids in just a few moments here. And lastly, today we're going to review how to delete an old agreement once the new updated ones have been added. Okay, so now we are in Rapids. We're in the ATO training page, and the home page for your sponsor group program should look very similar to this one. So we know that we're going to add an employer agreement for one of our employers. So we're going to come up here towards the top and we're going to click on employers. Now we are on the employer page where you can see a listing of all the employers that are attached to your program. And on the right-hand side here, under the column that says employer acceptance agreements, we have employer acceptance agreements. But you can see just at a glance here, when you have employer agreements that have a same or very similar name, now we have an employer that has more than one occupation. I can easily see here that this is the agreement for this employer, what occupation it's for, and the year it was added. This other one here, I have no idea what occupation that's for, if it's a recent agreement or an older one, I have no idea. So I'd have to go through, click each individual agreement to figure out what occupation it belongs to. So this is what I was meaning before about the naming convention and it being very beneficial. So I can see here that my employer agreement that I'm going to update is for different employer. And I have to update the roofer acceptance agreement. And I can see this acceptance agreement that's currently here is actually even attached to the wrong employer because that's how I have this particular agreement named. I already have the correct agreement with the correct employer down here. So I can go ahead and remove that right after I add the updated agreement. So I'm going to come over here to the left, click on the name of different employer. So now I'm on that employer's home screen, and the quickest way to add an employer agreement or any sort of document to that employer page is to come into the upper right-hand corner where it says Update Employer Information. If you hover near that button, you'll have a name tag shows up, and it just lists the actions that you can do on that particular button on that page. I see Employer Acceptance Agreement is listed. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. So now I can go ahead and drop my employer agreement right in here. I'm going to click the submit button and it says action completed up here at the top. So please note and don't be alarmed. It can sometimes take a minute or two for these agreements to load to a page. So please don't be alarmed if you add it and you go back in to check it and it's not there immediately. It, for some reason, does take a minute to do that. So while I'm waiting for that, I'm actually going to go to the Documents tab here because I want to verify what this employer agreement is, if it's right, wrong, or so I could see this is the roofer occupation for employer test. This is not on the right employer. So I'm going to come over here on the right-hand side where there's an X. I'm going to click that X, and then a little window opens. It asks me if I want to delete this document. Yes, I do. So now that has been removed. I'm just trying to refresh the page here to see if my other document will come up. And now I have my document here that I just uploaded is listed here. So I'm going to go back to the summary page for my employer. I'm going to go back here to my sponsor homepage. And I'm going to come back up to my tab here for employers and click that. And now I can see that very clearly this has been updated in 2023. And my agreements are all there. And the extra one has been removed. So now I need to update my journey worker count for that occupation of roofer. So in the interest of time, I have already reviewed these other employer agreements that are just listed as employer agreement. So none of them are for the roofer occupation. So I just have the 2 agreements here that we need to check. So I'm going to click on the agreement for the roofer occupation. And it opens a window here to have a view of that agreement. You can see verify again. It's the roofer occupation for employer test. And then you can just scroll down here a little bit. And then you can see the total number of journey workers for employer test is 20. So I'm going to jot that number down. Hit exit to go back. And then I'm going to check the next employer agreement that I just added for different employer. That's going to populate here. And that again is to verify that it is for roofer, it is different employer. And I'm going to scroll down here and this has 12 journey workers for this employer. I'm going to jot down the 12, hit the exit button and go back. So now we have 20 with one employer, 12 with the other. That gives us a cumulative journey worker count for the roofer occupation of 32. And we are going to update that on the occupation information page, just like we did for the individual sponsor. So I'll come up here to occupation information. And now I have a list of all of the occupations in my program. I can see right now it lists a count of 21. I know that's not correct. So to change that, I'm going to come over to the right under the column named actions, hover near the window, the icon with the paper and looks like a pencil. And I'll click that. And now I can update my journey worker total for this occupation. This is the roofer occupation. It says 21. I want to make that 32. So I put in a 32. I'll come over here to the lower right-hand corner where it says Save Occupation, and I'll click that to save my update. And now I have my occupation information page and my journey worker cumulative total has been updated for 32 for that roofer occupation. So now I can see at a glance what that journey worker count is. So I hope that this video has been helpful for you in updating journey worker counts for both individual and group sponsorships. So if you have any questions about anything related to apprenticeship, program updates, adding an occupation, rapids, any questions all on apprenticeship, please don't hesitate to contact your ATR for assistance or answers to your questions. And thank you again for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.